This fortress is full of English history. Whoever controlled it controlled the country. It has served as an armory, a treasury, a menagerie, the home of the Royal Mint, a public record office, the home of the crown jewels of England, and a prison where executions were performed. Hi, this is Andy Teach, host of Andy's Awesome Adventures, and welcome to the Tower of London in London, England. The Tower of London is located near the Tower Bridge and is officially named Her Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress of the Tower of London. It's an historic castle founded toward the end of 1066 as part of the Norman conquest of England. The White Tower, which gives the entire castle its name, was built by William the Conqueror in 1078 and was a resented symbol of oppression inflicted upon London by the new ruling elite. It was known as the Great Tower until the 13th century, when Henry III ordered it to be whitened inside and out, and thus it was known as the White Tower. It dominated the skyline for miles around. The castle was used as a prison from 1100 until 1952, although that was not its primary purpose. A grand palace early in its history, it served as a royal residence. As a whole, the tower is a complex of several buildings set within two concentric rings of defensive walls and a moat. There were several phases of expansion, mainly under Kings Richard I, Henry III, and Edward I in the 12th and 13th centuries. From the early 14th century until the reign of Charles II, a procession would be led from the tower to Westminster Abbey on the coronation of a monarch. In the absence of the monarch, the constable of the tower is in charge of the castle. This was a powerful and trusted position in the medieval period. Under the Tudors, the tower became used less as a royal residence, and despite attempts to refortify and repair the castle, its defenses had issues dealing with artillery. You may recognize this uniform. It belongs to the yeoman warders of Her Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress the Tower of London and members of the Sovereign's Bodyguard of the Yeoman Guard Extraordinary, also known as the Beefeaters. They are ceremonial guardians of the Tower of London. In principle, they are responsible for looking after any prisoners in the tower and safeguarding the British crown jewels. They have also conducted guided tours of the tower since the Victorian era. We're about to start our self-guided tour of the Tower of London. Byron Tower is the main entrance for tourists. It's the great gateway of the outer ward and was built by King Henry III from 1238 to 1272 to add additional defense to the castle. In 1381, it was reinforced by Richard II following a peasant revolt. That is the Bell Tower from 1190. The Bell Tower is the second oldest tower, and it contains the curfew bell. This was part of Richard I's enlargement of the fortress in 1190. St. Thomas's Tower was built by Edward I between 1275 and 1279 and restored in the 1860s. Traitor's Gate is an entrance through which many prisoners of the Tudors arrived at the Tower of London. The gate was built by Edward I to provide a watergate entrance to the tower, part of St. Thomas's Tower, which was designed to provide additional accommodation for the royal family. The name Traitor's Gate has been used since before 1543. Prisoners were brought by barge along the Thames, passing under the London Bridge, where the heads of recently executed prisoners were displayed on spikes. Notable prisoners such as Sir Thomas More entered the tower by Traitor's Gate. And across the way is the Bloody Tower. The Bloody Tower was originally built as a water gate by Henry III, and it became a land gate after 1280. The tower was improved by Edward III in 1360. It derives its name from the 1560s, when two princes are believed to have been murdered by their uncle Richard III in the upper chamber. Important prisoners were also detained here, including two archbishops of Canterbury and Sir Walter Raleigh. And we are going to start by going to the crown jewels, which I believe is the highlight of this tour.
Oh, he's already, look, he's off. He's off. He's cannon fodder. He's supposed to take the jewels with him.
The Jewel House was the department of the Jewel Office until 1782. The crown jewels have been kept here since 1661. In fact, there were a total of 23,578 jewels. Unfortunately, filming and photography are prohibited, and I did not want to cause an international incident, but the highlights are the coronation regalia, St. Edward's crown, the sovereign's orb, the jeweled sword of offering, the sovereign's scepter and rod, and the imperial state crown. Wakefield Tower was built from 1220 to 1240 and was named after William of Wakefield in 1344. It is the second largest tower in the Tower of London complex, and its walls are much thicker than the other towers, as it was built by Henry III to house his private apartments and to protect the inmost ward. The peak period of the castle's use as a prison was the 16th and 17th centuries, when many figures who had fallen into disgrace, such as Elizabeth I before she became queen, Sir Walter Raleigh, and Elizabeth Throckmorton, were held within its walls. This use had led to the phrase "sent to the Tower." Despite its reputation as a place of torture and death, only 7 people were executed within the tower before the World Wars of the 20th century. Executions were more commonly held on Tower Hill to the north of the castle, with 112 occurring there over a 400-year period. In the First and Second World Wars, the tower was again used as a prison and witnessed the executions of 12 men for espionage. After the Second World War, damage caused during the Blitz was repaired and the castle reopened to the public. The line of kings was first put together between 1688 and 1692 after the Board of Ordnance, who were mainly concerned with arming the army and navy, decided to create an exhibition promoting the Stuart monarchy. They created the exhibition called the Line of Kings, which featured royal armor and life-size wooden horses and wooden royal figures made by several of Britain's best woodcarvers. The exhibition was originally at another location inside the Tower of London. Line of Kings was a propaganda statement. It featured good kings like Edward III and Henry VIII, but excluded bad ones such as Edward II and Richard III. When this new exhibition opened, it was both historical and topical. Some visitors would have remembered the execution of Charles I in 1649 and the restoration of Charles II in 1660. There are many other pieces made for noblemen as well as for common soldiers. Queens and less popular monarchs were left out, as they didn't play a part in this royal message to early tower visitors. Over the centuries, the Line of Kings has been rearranged a number of times. St. John's Chapel was a private chapel of the king who was living in the White Tower since 1100. However, by the 13th century, it became a place to store historic documents. Once these documents were sent to the new Public Record Office, the chapel was restored in the 1860s and went back to being a place of worship. The Beauchamp Tower was built around 1281 during the reign of Edward I as part of the tower's inner defensive wall. The tower takes its name from Thomas Beauchamp, Earl of Warwick, who was imprisoned here at the end of the 14th century for rebelling against Richard II. The building has been used to house prisoners throughout its history. Well, we're still in the Tower of London, and this is where some of the executions took place.
What did you do? Oh, didn't she, Didn't she get a haircut?